If destiny controls everything, why are humans asked to make choices? Why do ancient Hindu traditions speak of two great powers instead of one single force? And what if Vishnu and Shiva are not rivals at all, but guides for understanding life itself? From ancient times to the modern world, people have searched for meaning when life feels unfair, confusing, or painful. When a job is lost, a relationship ends, or plans fall apart, the mind naturally asks, was this my destiny? This question is not new. Hindu philosophy explored it thousands of years ago, not through strict rules, but through stories and symbols. Vishnu and Shiva appear again and again in these traditions, not as characters fighting for power, but as ideas that help humans understand balance. According to widely accepted Hindu belief, Vishnu represents preservation and order, while Shiva represents transformation and the ending of illusion. These roles are described in texts such as the Bhagawath Geetha and various Purāṇas, though interpretations do differ across traditions, which we will acknowledge clearly as we go. This video does not claim that gods decide your daily events, nor does it deny personal effort. What it explores is how these ideas were used to explain responsibility, change, and human action. Factually, Hindu philosophy speaks of karma as action and consequence, not blind fate. The interpretation, which we will openly call interpretation, is that Vishnu and Shiva together show why life needs both care and letting go. Too much control creates suffering, and too much destruction creates chaos. Balance is the key question. As you continue watching, ask yourself, where are you holding on too tightly, and where are you afraid to act? This journey is about understanding, not belief. If this exploration helps you see destiny with more clarity, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so we can continue learning together, step by step, with honesty and depth. When humans face pain, loss, or sudden change, the mind often looks for one simple answer. This is where ideas about destiny begin. Across cultures, people have tried to explain why good people suffer, why effort does not always bring success, and why life feels unfair at times. In Hindu philosophy, this search did not begin as blind belief, but as a deep question about human fear and meaning. Ancient thinkers observed that when people feel powerless, they look for a larger force to make sense of their pain. This is a fact supported by the way early religious and philosophical texts were shaped. They responded to real human struggles, not abstract debates. Destiny myths grew as emotional tools, not scientific claims, helping people survive grief, uncertainty, and fear. It is important to clearly separate fact from interpretation here. Factually, Hindu texts such as the Upanishad and the Bhagavath Gita do not teach that life is fully fixed or controlled by fate. They speak instead about action, consequence, and awareness. The interpretation, which developed over time in society, is that destiny decides everything. This interpretation became popular because it reduced blame and emotional burden. When a farmer lost crops to drought, or a family lost a loved one, saying it was destiny softened the pain. But was that the original meaning, or a later comfort added by human fear? Psychology today supports this idea. Studies show that humans naturally seek patterns and reasons during suffering. The brain dislikes uncertainty. When answers are missing, stories fill the gap. This does not make those stories false in meaning, but it does mean they are symbolic, not literal rules of the universe. Hindu philosophy used symbols instead of strict commands. Forces like preservation and change were described through deities, so people could understand complex ideas in simple ways. This is where concepts later represented by Vishnu and Shiva slowly took shape, not as controllers of fate, but as mirrors of life processes. So the real question is not whether destiny exists, but why humans need it. Is destiny a truth written outside us, or a story created inside us to survive pain? If suffering has meaning, does it still need destiny as an excuse? And if humans stop blaming fate, what responsibility are they forced to face next? These questions are not answered yet, and that is exactly why the journey must continue. In Hindu philosophy, preservation is often misunderstood as comfort or protection from problems. But the idea connected to Vishnu is far deeper than that. Factually, Vishnu is described in many Hindu traditions as the preserver of cosmic order, often called Dharma. This does not mean that Vishnu removes pain or rewards people automatically. Instead, the idea of preservation points to continuity, responsibility, and sustained effort. Ancient texts such as the Bhagavad Gita explain that order in life survives only when individuals act with awareness and duty. This is a verifiable teaching, not a modern opinion. Preservation in this sense depends on human action, not divine rescue. In daily life, this idea is easy to observe. Families survive because someone chooses to care, work, and remain patient even when it feels unfair. Societies remain stable because rules are followed, duties are accepted, and people protect what already exists. Vishnu symbolizes this steady force that keeps life from falling apart. The interpretation, which developed later, is that preservation should feel easy or gentle. In reality, preservation is often tiring. Holding a family together during hardship, staying honest in a difficult system, or protecting values when others abandon them requires effort. This is why preservation is not passive waiting, but active participation. It is also important to be clear about limits. Hindu philosophy does not say Vishnu controls every event. What it suggests is that order survives when actions align with balance. When people abandon responsibility, disorder grows naturally. This is not punishment, it is cause and effect. Modern psychology supports this idea by showing that stable routines, care, and responsibility create mental and social balance, while neglect leads to stress and collapse. These are observable facts, not religious claims. This raises an important question for the listener. If preservation depends on action, not fate, what happens when people stop caring and blame destiny instead? Is it easier to believe that life is controlled by forces beyond us than to accept the weight of responsibility? And if preservation requires effort, how long can order survive when humans refuse to protect it? These questions remain open, and the answers become clearer only when we look at the other force that works alongside preservation, waiting just beneath the surface. In life, endings often feel frightening, but they are also the moments that allow new beginnings. This is where the concept represented by Shiva becomes meaningful. Factually, Shiva is described in Hindu traditions as a force that removes ignorance and illusion, not as a punisher or random destroyer. This is clearly presented in Purāṇic texts and classical Shiva teachings, where destruction is always connected to transformation. Meditation, silence, and detachment are key symbols associated with Shiva, showing that endings are necessary to make space for growth. When life feels chaotic, these ideas help people understand that some losses are natural and sometimes even beneficial. Human experience supports this. When a job ends, a relationship breaks, or a plan fails, these endings often create the opportunity to rethink priorities, gain insight, or begin again with greater clarity. In the modern world, we can see how embracing transformation works in everyday life. For instance, when a company shuts down, its employees may initially feel failure, but many find opportunities for new careers or skills they would never have discovered otherwise. When a friendship ends, it may lead to self-reflection and stronger relationships in the future. The symbolic meaning of Shiva teaches that destruction is not about harm. It is about removing the old or false to allow the real or necessary to emerge. This is a verifiable observation in both life and philosophy. Ancient texts like the Upanishad suggest that change and ending are inseparable from the cycles of existence, and that attachment to what must end leads to suffering. Letting go is not weakness. It is a natural process of balance. It is important to separate interpretation from fact. Factually, Shiva represents transformation. Interpretation is how humans relate this to personal change. Understanding this allows people to face endings with awareness rather than fear. This raises thought-provoking questions. What illusions are you holding on to that prevent growth? How might your own endings lead to better beginnings? And what would your life look like if you embrace change instead of resisting it? These are not simple answers, but considering them opens the door to seeing life as a balance between holding and releasing, and sets the stage for exploring how these forces interact with preservation in the world around us. Many people assume that Vishnu and Shiva are rivals, but careful examination of Hindu texts shows a different story. Factually, scriptures like the Purāṇas describe moments where both deities honor and support each other's roles in maintaining cosmic balance. The idea of rivalry likely arose later due to regional differences, sectarian divisions, and cultural interpretations rather than from the original philosophy. Preservation and transformation are not opposing forces in reality. They are complementary processes. Life, the texts suggest, requires both steady care and courageous change. Without preservation, chaos grows. Without transformation, stagnation dominates. Understanding this provides a clear view of why myths about rivalry exist, and also why they should be interpreted carefully. Historically, the concept of balance is central. Texts show Vishnu stepping in to protect creation, while Shiva brings endings that allow renewal. This interaction illustrates that order and change must coexist. In everyday life, we see parallels. A teacher preserves knowledge and routines for students, but occasionally must challenge them to let go of misconceptions, pushing them toward growth. Similarly, a gardener maintains plants, yet prunes or removes parts that no longer serve the plant's health. This illustrates the principle of complementary forces. It is important to distinguish this observation from religious claim. It is a reflection of verifiable human experience supported by philosophical symbolism. Understanding rivalry versus harmony also encourages reflection on human conflicts. When people perceive opposition where it does not exist, energy is wasted in competition rather than cooperation. Philosophically, this teaches that misinterpretation of forces, whether in nature or relationships, can create unnecessary suffering. Balanced action arises when one sees that opposing ideas may serve the same purpose from different angles. This is a lesson both in life and in thinking about myth. As you consider these truths, ask yourself, where do you see rivalry that may actually be balance in your life? Are there conflicts you carry that only exist in perception? And if two opposite forces can work together in the universe, what does this suggest about cooperation, patience, and understanding in your own relationships? These questions are not just curiosity, they are invitations to explore the subtle ways balance operates in both the world and your own choices. Understanding destiny requires looking carefully at both action and consequence. Hindu philosophy, as described in texts like the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishad, does not teach that life is fully controlled by fate. Instead, it introduces the concept of karma, which is the natural result of actions combined with awareness. Factually, karma emphasizes that while external events may occur, the outcomes we experience are influenced by our choices and effort. This is not superstition. It is a principle of cause and effect, clearly stated in scripture and widely accepted in Hindu thought. When we act with purpose and mindfulness, we shape the results in our lives, and when we neglect responsibility, consequences naturally follow. This principle helps explain why Vishnu's preservation and Shiva's transformation are not random, but connected to the choices we make and the balance we maintain. Vishnu represents conscious action and order, showing that life benefits from responsible behavior. Preservation is achieved not by waiting for luck or divine rescue, but by consistent effort and care for what matters. For example, a farmer tending crops, a teacher nurturing students, or a person maintaining healthy relationships all demonstrate how conscious action preserves what is valuable. On the other hand, Shiva symbolizes release from attachment, showing that letting go of what no longer serves us is equally important. When change occurs, we face loss or endings, but these moments also open the door for growth, insight, and new opportunities. Understanding this helps people take responsibility without blaming fate or external forces. In modern life, a common problem is that people blame destiny instead of evaluating their own choices. By seeing the interplay of karma and conscious action, one can recognize that effort, decision-making, and adaptability shape outcomes more than passive hope. The balance between holding on and letting go mirrors Vishnu and Shiva's complementary roles, highlighting that destiny is not absolute. It is participation in the flow of life. This distinction is critical because it encourages action while fostering acceptance. This brings thought-provoking questions to consider. If your destiny depends on your choices, what changes could you make today? Are you holding on to what needs to be released? And how would life feel if you fully accepted both responsibility and change as partners in shaping your path? Reflecting on these questions allows the principles of preservation and transformation to guide daily life with clarity and purpose. In modern life, finding balance can feel more challenging than ever. The lessons represented by Vishnu and Shiva can help us understand how to navigate this complexity. Vishnu teaches the value of structure, responsibility, and care. Just as he preserves cosmic order in Hindu philosophy, humans preserve stability in their own lives by maintaining routines, meeting obligations, and protecting what matters. Factually, ancient texts describe Vishnu's role as sustaining order through conscious effort rather than passive waiting. Applying this idea today, people who maintain focus on family, career, or health create continuity even when challenges arise. On the other hand, Shiva represents the necessity of rest, letting go, and transformation. When situations, relationships, or habits no longer serve us, endings allow space for growth. Ancient sources such as the Purāṇas and classical Shiva teachings show that destruction is not punishment, but a natural part of life's cycles. In practical terms, burnout often happens when preservation is overemphasized without release. People work endlessly, hold tightly to outcomes, or resist necessary change. By embracing the complementary role of transformation, we can prevent collapse. A business leader who delegates tasks or steps back from micromanaging, for example, allows innovation to flourish. Similarly, letting go of habits, old grudges, or rigid routines makes room for learning and personal growth. These are observable, verifiable life lessons supported by both philosophy and psychology, which shows that balance between effort and release improves mental and emotional health. It is also important to acknowledge limits. Hindu philosophy does not prescribe exact steps for modern life, but provides guiding principles. Preservation and transformation must coexist. Misinterpreting either one can cause stress or stagnation. When humans see these forces in daily life, they can better understand which areas need care and which need change. This reflection encourages conscious decisions rather than blaming fate or feeling helpless. This leads to thought-provoking questions. Are you holding too tightly to what needs to end? Are there areas in your life where letting go could create growth? And if balance is the key to mental and emotional health, what small steps could you take today to integrate both preservation and transformation into your life? Considering these questions allows us to see life as an active, conscious practice, where ancient principles of Vishnu and Shiva guide practical choices and personal well-being. When people think about destiny, they often imagine it as something fixed, something written in stone. Yet Hindu philosophy, as shown in texts like the Bhagawath Geetha and the Upanishad, presents a very different picture. Destiny is not absolute control, but a participation in life through awareness, choice, and balance. The myths of Vishnu and Shiva are symbolic guides showing that we are neither helpless victims nor all-powerful rulers. Vishnu encourages careful preservation, daily effort, and responsibility, while Shiva reminds us of the necessity of endings, transformation, and letting go. Both forces together teach that life flows best when we actively engage with both maintaining order and embracing change. In everyday life, this principle is easy to observe. A student who studies diligently preserves knowledge, but they also need to let go of mistakes and bad habits to grow. A parent may care for a child's needs, yet allow the child to make their own decisions, accepting endings as a natural part of independence. Similarly, a professional may build and maintain a project while being ready to adjust or abandon approaches that no longer serve the goal. The interplay of holding and releasing reflects the balance between Vishnu and Shiva, demonstrating that destiny is shaped as much by conscious action as by circumstance. Psychology also supports this view, showing that people who take responsibility while accepting change experience higher resilience and mental clarity. It is important to recognize that destiny myths reflect human needs, not literal control. These myths help us understand how to act wisely, how to preserve what matters, and how to release what no longer serves us. They guide moral reflection and encourage thoughtful action rather than fear or resignation. Considering this, we can ask ourselves, what patterns in your life are holding you back? Where could letting go lead to meaningful growth? And if destiny is shaped moment by moment, how will your choices today influence the life you wish to create? By reflecting on these questions, we see that life is not about waiting for fate or fearing endings, but about participating fully, embracing both responsibility and transformation, and finding balance in every step we take. As we reach the end of this journey, it becomes clear that the myths of Vishnu and Shiva are not stories about winners or losers, but lessons about life itself. These myths teach that the universe and our lives work best when preservation and change exist together. Vishnu shows us how important it is to act responsibly, to care for what matters, and to maintain order in our lives. At the same time, Shiva reminds us that endings, transformations, and letting go are just as essential. Factually, Hindu texts such as the Bhagawath, Geetha, and Purāṇas describe these forces as complementary rather than opposing. They are meant to guide reflection and conscious living, not to impose rules or guarantee results. Understanding these principles helps us see that destiny is not a fixed path we are forced to follow. Instead, it is shaped by our choices, our awareness, and the balance we maintain between holding on and letting go. Modern psychology supports this, showing that people who act responsibly while also accepting change experience better mental health and greater resilience. This shows that the lessons from Vishnu and Shiva are practical and meaningful, not only symbolic. As you reflect on this, consider your own life. Where are you holding on too tightly? And where could letting go bring growth? Which areas require care and consistency, and which need transformation or release? Life is not about avoiding endings or seeking perfect control. It is about participating fully in the flow of change, learning from every challenge, and embracing both responsibility and freedom. By observing this balance, we can create a life that is not ruled by fear, chance, or misunderstanding, but guided by clarity, awareness, and thoughtful action, showing that the wisdom of ancient myths remains deeply relevant today.